Hello and welcome everybody to today's training. I hope you're all doing super well, staying nice and cool, and having a wonderful Sunday. And I hope I can just add a little bit more of good information to your retirement planning so that you can retire with confidence. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jason J. Hamilton, and I am a chartered retirement planning counselor and the founder of Keep It Simple Financial Planning, which is a fee-only registered investment advisor here in California, and we do serve clients nationwide. So we do these trainings every Sunday. We bring them to you so that you can continue to add to your base of knowledge when it comes to retiring and doing it the right way. There's a lot of ways to do it the wrong way, but I want to help you do it the right way. As I mentioned, we do these trainings every Sunday, but I do have to give you a quick warning. The next 3 Sundays, I will be traveling. I'll be in Palm Springs, then I'll be in Texas the week after, and then the week after that, I'll be up in northern Los Angeles. So I will do my best to get the trainings to you. I may have to record the videos ahead of time and then put them up, but I will do my best. So just keep that in mind these next few weeks. But today, what I want to talk to you about is long-term care. This is another subject that came up as a highly requested subject for you to learn more about. And I know you've heard of probably long-term care insurance, but that's really only one part of the equation. So before we get into that, I do want to talk about what long-term care is. So on that note, let's get into our training for today. Let's see here. Looks like it's working here okay. Let's take a look, make sure that's up and running properly. Okay, I hope you can see this here. There we go. That should hopefully do it. Let's see. Let me add myself in this little corner here. All right, there we go. Okay, so we're going to talk about today is what is long-term care. We're going to talk about the different types of long-term care and some things you should be thinking about, and also the costs of long-term care and the likelihood of you potentially needing it. So let's get into some of this today. Oops, let's get this going. Get that out of there. Oops. Uh-oh. Oh, there we go. Okay. Gotta love dealing with technical difficulties. All right. So, what is long-term care? So the definition by Rosalie and Robert Kane, who are 2 known long-term care experts, is that long-term care is assistance given over a sustained period of time to people who are experiencing long-term difficulties in functioning, okay? So that's really a kind of a broad generation. Hey, Pam, welcome. Oh, and thank you very much. Can you hear me? I know you said you can see it, but can you hear me? If you can hear me, please give me a thumbs up or just type yes in the comments. I'd appreciate that just to make sure. But the term long-term care, it actually covers a range of services. One may be required to meet your personal care needs due to chronic illness, physical disability, or cognitive impairment. Okay, so it's really all in these different areas. So these needs are not acute, and in fact, they aren't even necessarily medical in nature. They're just really related to your activities of daily living. So if you have trouble bathing, dressing, using the toilet, transferring to or from bed or from your chair, excuse me, caring for incontinence or eating, all of these activities can constitute some sort of long-term care. All right, thanks, Pam, for confirming that you can hear me. I appreciate that. So while people over the age of 65 represent the majority of long-term care recipients, long-term care is not reserved for seniors. Anyone of any age needing extended care is technically receiving long-term care. So for our purposes, though, we're going to focus on the needs of seniors, okay? Because that's what most of this group is, and that's what this group's about. So as life expectancies have continued to rise, and they're going to continue to rise a lot more over the next 10 to 15 years, more and more people are finding that they need at least some form of care as they get older. It's estimated that about 70% of people turning 65 today will need long-term care at some point. And about 20% will need it for more than 5 years. Okay, so that's a really long time. Once we get to the cost of long-term care, it's going to blow your mind. But if you need it for more than 5 years, it could really cause a scramble to your nest egg. Excuse me. So this need is especially great for women who are twice as likely to need nursing home care than men, and their average need for long-term care is a full 2.6 years compared to 2.3 years for men. I think the reason for this mostly is that men, on average, are passing away earlier, and earlier they're getting the signs of age, right? So a lot of times their wives will be doing in-home care, which is why it's twice as likely for women, because if the man passes away first, then the woman is left to kind of take care of herself, which makes sense why there's a 200% likelihood of the woman needing a nursing home versus a man. So that one makes sense, I would say. So despite these statistics, most studies show that few Americans think that they will ever require long-term care. I hear this all the time. So many folks just think like, oh, I'm not going to need it. They're going to take the risk. And, you probably have a 50-50 shot of needing it or not needing it. But if you do need it and you don't have any sort of plan for your coverage, you can be in a lot of trouble very quickly. So only about a third of Americans have even made the most basic plans for their future care needs. So that's 1 in 3. So if you already have some long-term care plans in place, then you're in the top 33% already. So congratulations to you. But even fewer have saved adequately for the possibility of needing long-term care, and many still believe that it will be covered by Medicare. So we talked about this in the last module last week. Medicare does not cover long-term care. It'll cover a short-term stay, but it does not cover long-term care. So many people make this mistake and end up in a lot of trouble financially because they don't plan for it. So why the resistance to planning for long-term care? Well, first, I truly believe the topic of long-term care is emotionally difficult, right? I have these discussions day in and day out. So for me, it's more about the numbers and making sure that my clients are covered and they have a plan in place. But for many people, they just don't want to deal with it. And honestly, they're in denial about their own age and mortality. But the second reason is the high cost associated with long-term care. And it may seem unattainable. And as we're seeing, the cost is going up year after year. People with plans are seeing increases in their plans more and more. I believe Brian posted an article this week saying that his provider is actually going out of the long-term care business. So sort of scary to see what's happening here, especially with technology and the fact that our ages are going to be extending. We're going to see a lot more people living past 100 over the next 10 years, 15 years. So, but not preparing for the cost may jeopardize your financial independence, your lifestyle, and your financial legacy. So as we'll see, the long-term care planning involves much more than making a decision about whether to purchase a long-term care insurance policy. There's a lot more that goes into it besides just purchasing a policy. So I want to talk to you about levels of care, because you may not know that, but there's actually different levels of care when it comes to long-term care, and I want to go through those so that you are aware. So long-term care is generally divided into 3 categories. Skilled nursing care, intermediate care, and custodial care. So that's really how it breaks down in those 3 categories. The majority of all long-term care is at the personal care or custodial care level, which provides physical assistance with activities of daily living, or the ADLs as we spoke about, or with supervision for those with a cognitive impairment such as dementia or Alzheimer's. So a lot of this is going to be in home, just minor stuff, preparing food, dressing, things like that. That's the majority of long-term care. This care is provided most often by unpaid caregivers such as family members or friends, and in fact over 70% of all long-term care is provided by unpaid family members. The majority of these family members are employed women who can devote an average of 20 hours per week to providing long-term care. So think about that for a second. The majority of these providers are working, their normal 40-hour work week, plus they're working 20 hours, or maybe they have to take off some time from work to be able to provide this care. So it can really be detrimental for the person providing care long term. Hey, Darren, how's it going? Thanks for showing up. Welcome. Appreciate your message down there. But while there is no direct cost for care provided by family members, there are considerable indirect costs to the caregiver. So this can include loss of wages and deterioration of her own health, due to demands of caregiving. Caring for another person can be very, very physically demanding. So it could actually wear down on the health of the caregiver. So if you're, a spouse of you're taking care of somebody, you may have to take off work. So that can include loss of wages, and that may hurt your retirement plans long term. So really thinking about these things in a holistic perspective is really, really important. Custodial care can also be provided by home health aides, certified nursing assistants, and companion services. So frequently, once an individual moves from his home to a long-term care facility, The level of care increases to intermediate or skilled nursing care, both of which are provided by skilled and licensed professionals. Formal caregivers include a wide array of professionals, including physicians, nurses, therapists, dietitians, and respite caregivers. So let's talk about long-term care settings, because the settings for long-term care can be in different places. So while most of us think of traditional nursing homes when we think of long-term care, you should be aware of alternatives to nursing homes that have expanded over time. And a big reason for this is the extreme cost, which we'll cover shortly, but it's very expensive to have a full-time care in a facility. So options include home-based care, adult daycare, and assisted living communities, as well as skilled nursing care available in nursing homes and hospice care that can be provided in a facility or at home. These alternatives can often be more suited to the individual patient's needs and can be more affordable. So let's talk about home health care services. So with home health care services, care can be provided either at the patient's home or that of a family member. Home care services make up over 70% of all long-term care expenses, as we mentioned earlier. Care can be provided by a home health care agency, an independent caregiver who delivers home care, a family member, or by a community-based residential facility. Okay, then there's adult daycare centers. So many communities are starting to offer adult daycare where people with few impairments can spend the day, have lunch, socialize with others, and be under the watchful eyes of trained staff. These are an especially useful alternative when the primary caregivers must work regular hours. So, you know, they are just what they sound like. Instead of child care facilities or adult daycare facilities, I think that these can actually be really good, especially if the caregiver is very busy, because just being alone all day sort of detrimental to the person needing care, their mental health and their physical health. These places allow them to get out, get in the community, interact with the people, and that's very, very good for the long-term mental health. So I would definitely recommend checking those out. Okay, and then there is board and care homes. So these are sometimes called adult foster care homes, and these are often a good long-term care solution for individuals who are fairly healthy and independent, but who find a home or apartment more than they can handle. So residents of board and care homes generally have individual rooms and bathroom facilities. Meals, laundry, and housekeeping services are provided for all. So that's board and care homes. Some board and care plans do provide van service for residents of churches, senior citizen centers, cultural events, and shopping malls. Generally, trained staff can help with light self-maintenance, like dressing for an additional fee. Okay, this is what most folks think of when they think about long-term care, but let's talk about assisted living facilities. So these facilities are an intermediate step in the long-term care continuum. Residents share meals and other activities and can receive personal assistance that is needed to maintain their independence. Residents would be unable to live on their own, but do not require full-time medical attention. Hey, Jim. Hey, Kathy. Welcome. Thanks for showing up today. Appreciate it. The entry fee. Okay, this is the entry fee to an assisted living facility. Starts at about $100,000, but it can be much higher. In some cases, though, this fee is returned to a resident's heirs upon death, either in part or full. But in addition, there's a monthly fee that averages $3,500 per month, and most care is private pay. So for those that are watching right now, can you please answer in the comments, did you think that the entry fee to an assisted living facility starts at roughly $100,000? I would love to say here yes or no in the comments if you already knew about this and that you're planning on covering $100,000. I should say that's an annual fee per year. So has anybody thought about covering that? It's pretty extreme. I doubt many people have. But while you're entering your votes in there, let's talk about continuing care retirement communities, sometimes called CCRCs, or life care communities. They operate much like assisted living facilities, but are capable of caring for residents as their needs change. So this allows you to go up in levels of care as needed, you know. And if you need more care, you can actually increase your level of care, but you can start off pretty independent, and they move you around typically at different areas of facility as this is happening. So this is great for fairly healthy residents, because if you're fairly healthy, you can live pretty independently and you have your own apartment. But as you lose your ability to handle the ADLs, they're a guaranteed access to more skilled care in another part of the facility. So they can be really good, you know, as you're needing more and more care. So yeah, Patricia and Denise and Kathy all knows. Nobody really knew that it's about 100,000 to enter. That's pretty common. That people don't know that, but there's something you really need to think about if you may need this care, especially if you're on your own. So CCRCs generally require new residents to make an initial payment. Same thing here. Sometimes as high as $100,000 per resident, followed by monthly maintenance payments. So, and then there's also additional services that could be billed separately. So it can add up really, really quickly. But I do have to make a note here. The cost, quality, and oversight by state regulators of these different care alternatives, they vary greatly from state to state. So I would highly recommend that you do not just wait until you need care to go figure this out, that you actually go and do some exploring and do some research and find out where might be a good place, how much is it going to cost, so that you're prepared for these costs as they come up. Jim had dropped a comment. In Texas, there's generally no entry fee. That's wonderful. And they pay $32.50 a month for mom's assisted living. That seems great, and $32.50 might be okay, but if you're not prepared, you're not going to add up pretty quickly. And as we mentioned earlier, there might be some additional services that are needed. So really $32.50, that's about $40,000 a year. That's pretty good. That's really, really low in Texas. I've seen many states hit $90,000, $100,000 or more very, very easily. So again, you want to check in state to state to make sure you're getting the quality and care that you need. And now I want to talk about the cost of care. So regardless of the type of long-term care required, there is one constant. The care costs money and lots of it. So according to the U.S. Department of Labor, long-term care is the greatest uninsured risk Americans face. The actual cost varies state, by facility, and by the level of care provided. So pretty crazy to have the statistic. The Department of Labor has put out that long-term care is the greatest uninsured risk Americans face. So many folks have bought life insurance throughout their time. They bought other kinds of insurance, but when it comes to long-term care, they're much more willing to gamble from what I've seen, and willing to gamble that they may not need the care. And so instead of paying somewhere, usually it's about $5,000 to $8,000 a year, now they want to gamble and see if they can essentially, pass away before they need it, right? So it's a pretty risky, gamble to take, but it is what it is. And if you're already 65 and you don't have enough money saved to cover this, it could be a little bit tricky for you. So, I got this information from this 2016 survey, but I did put in the 2017 from Genworth. It's a great site to check out your potential costs on the average per state. I dropped that in the group yesterday, so definitely check that out. But the national median cost for a one-year stay in a private room in a nursing home for 2016 is a little more than $92,000. So this is for a private room. If you have a shared room, it can be a little bit less. Usually it's about $60,000 or $70,000 from what I've seen. And if you have like part-time in-home care, you might be paying $45,000 or $50,000. So you got to keep in mind that if you still have a house to maintain, if you still have other things that you're paying for, these costs are going to be on top of the other costs that you need to cover. So when you're looking at policies, right now the average cost you might need covered is about $253 per day. So take a look at your policy if you have one. Let's see what your coverage is. And maybe it's less, so you can have a lower annual requirement due, but then you just have to make up the difference. So again, these are average costs, and check out your state for your particular cost. So some states had an average annual expense of less than $70,000, while others were more than $150,000. That's per year. Expenses in an assisted living facility might be about half the cost of a nursing home. So in either case, the extended stay translates into many dollars being spent. So for most folks, a few $1,000s probably wouldn't break anyone, but a few $100,000 would pose a significant risk to the financial security of most people. And remember that Medicare only covers 100 days of care. And then only if an individual has been previously hospitalized for 3 consecutive days prior to needing long-term care. So you have to meet these requirements to even get covered by Medicare, and it's only 100 days. So if you go beyond that, you're going to need your long-term care policy to cover you. So the question becomes how to pay for long-term care expenses and manage the risk. As it turns out, the options have been increasing as providers are trying to help people deal with these expenses. But in addition to just writing a check, the major options we will consider are long-term care insurance, life insurance, annuities, reverse mortgages, and Medicaid. So we're going to talk about those more over the next couple weeks because I wanted to just do a quick little intro and give you some maybe raise your eyebrows about the potential costs of long-term care and what it's really going to take for you to make sure that you're taken care of in your later years. And we'll cover these subjects over the next few weeks, okay? So that's all I have for you today. But if you would like some additional assistance, you can go to kisplanning.com/apply, and you can schedule your complimentary retirement strategy consultation there. What we'll do on that call, it's about 45 minutes or so, is what I'll do is I'll help you really go through what have you done well, what are you still missing when it comes to getting a proper retirement strategy in place, and we'll definitely give you a high-level game plan that if you want to go and execute yourself, then that's totally fine. But if you want my assistance, then we can talk about what that would look like, and we can go from there. But these strategy sessions are complimentary. What I want you to consider is not about just long-term care insurance as being something you may need to discuss, but really your overall comprehensive plan. Very, very few financial planners and retirement planners will talk about your comprehensive plan. Usually they want to sell you a product, an annuity, some insurance policy, or only manage your investments. That's not what we do at all. We're going to go through all aspects of your retirement plan to make sure that your cash flow is taken care of, that you have your long-term care planned for, that you're watching out for all the little things. If you need Medicare help, we can help you with that. If you need Social Security timing help, we can help you with that. And just really make sure that you are prepared to go into retirement with confidence. That's my goal, that's my mission, and that's what I want to do to help you out. So if you need any additional assistance, this is where you can go. You're welcome to ask questions in the group. I'll do my best to answer them there. And other than that, I'm going to stay on for just a minute to see if you have any questions that you would like me to answer regarding this particular subject, keeping in mind that over the next few weeks, we're going to talk about things like long-term care and how to pay for it. But anything we talked about today, are there any questions? And I will stay on for just a minute to answer those for you. So for those that, I'm going to give a minute because it's a little bit delayed usually when I give time for questions. But for those that checked in a little bit later, that I do want to do this every Sunday, but the next 3 Sundays I will be traveling, and so I'm going to do my best to hop on and do a training. I may end up posting a video, but I'll do my best to make sure that you're getting some sort of weekly addition to your retirement planning knowledge, but I may or may not be able to get on right at 2 o'clock like we have been the last few weeks, so just keep that in mind. But as always, put your questions in the group. I'm going to continue to give you good information, and I will probably step up more often to 2 times a week training. So if there's no questions, I'm going to wrap up for today. I'm not seeing anything come into the comment section, but I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. Thank you so much. This group is turning into something really amazing. I love how you help each other, and I really love to hear the people that are actually getting some insight from someone else who's gone through a previous situation. I don't know of any other place where you can get this sort of information and interact with other folks that are having the same challenges as you going into retirement. So I appreciate you all. Thank you so much for joining and being part of the community. I've seen a lot of people inviting their friends and family. Keep in mind, you are welcome to. You can invite your friends and family to the group, not a problem. But please let them know you're inviting them. Go ahead and tag them in a post, when they after you invite them, so that they know they're in the group. The last thing I want is for a bunch of people to be in the group and then not be notified because they never knew they're in the community. So the way Facebook works is if you don't interact and you don't come to the group, you probably won't see all the notifications. And I try to post as much good information as I can. So if you're missing those posts, then you're missing out on information, and you are missing out on things that can help you retire with confidence. So that's all I have for you today, guys. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon, and be safe and stay cool. Have a great one. Bye-bye.